Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty Queens. I'm your host, Pamela, lovely best friend,
niaj, baby.
And so today, guys, we're gonna give you a little education today. We usually talk about, what's hot and popping with, the tabloids and the media and everything, but let's just break it down a little bit and talk about something that most people don't really, hit the nail on, hun. And I want to talk about pay equality, and let's talk about that gender pay gap. What is your opinion on gender roles and then, of course, the gender pay gap in your opinion? Like, what do you think about that?
First thing, that is such like it's a topic. It's like a sandwich, and there's a lot of layers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, we can take it way back because first of all, our journey versus some other people's journey, as far as women are concerned, is completely different. Mind you, our people with African lineage were slaves, so neither male or female was making any kind of compensation, right?
Right.
We were on field, working for free. So from that point, when, after the proclamation, all that good stuff, and then Black people were free, Black men were the ones who were out to get the jobs, right? Women kind of took care of the household and stuff to that effect. And we can say the same for white women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at that point in time, they were not working. If anything, if they were working, they were perhaps teachers, or nurses. That's typically what you saw as an occupation for females. You were either a teacher or a nurse. You had to be someone who, you know what I'm saying, was giving of themselves in a way, or teaching Bible class or something like that. We weren't we weren't firefighters or lawyers or police women or anything like that. So we first have to go back because it's going to be different for different ethnic groups and races. Our path to women even being in the workforce at all, let alone, like I said, women of color. And then I'm sure women in other countries as well. We know it's been a man's world for quite some time. Not technically speaking, but that's the way that it's been this whole time. Like, it's really been a man's world. So it took a very long time for women to even be considered able or capable of employment, and women taking on, responsibilities for a household or anything like that other than domestic. So it's been a long journey from our history going back to slavery to now, and then versus, other race people and stuff like that. Now, in the modern era, yes, true inequality. True inequality with the way that people get compensated in different job roles, or even outside of like your regular 9 to 5, even going into entertainment, there are differences with pay grade. And I just can't bring myself to grasp or understand where that derives from, or, why it still is the way it is today. But I can tell you that we did not start off with rights as women in this country. And in a lot of other countries, women still don't have rights.
Facts. You look at China and you look at the way they look at women, and just how it's like for them, it's like you have to have a male heir. Like, they look down on their women, they look down on their children. If they're female children, they look down on these children and women. And it's just like, what do you get out of that? I look at that, I'm just like, what do you get? You're still considered third world, even though you're more advanced than most other third world countries. But what do you get out of like the gender disequality, if you will?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And I feel like here in the U.S., we have a lot more opportunity. It's the land of opportunity. But I did want to just talk about and just give a couple little demographics too, versus because you're in Atlanta, I'm in Vegas, and just looking at minimum wage and how different it is. Because when we were in like social studies and stuff in like high school, I really thought, learning about like finances and stuff like that, I really thought minimum wage was literally the same unanimously in the United States. Every state was the same. come to find out, it's a lot different, and it's changed so much depending on where you are. So for you, your per capita is $7.25 is your minimum wage
Okay.
in Georgia, in the state of Georgia,
Okay.
versus my it goes two ways. So in Nevada, our minimum wage starts at $10.25, and that's with benefits. So you get your health insurance, dental, that's included with that. And if you go uninsured, you get $1 more, so it would be $11.25, and that's going to be the minimum wage. But coming from where we work and what we do, how does one make a living, pay your bills, pay your rent or your mortgage, pay your car note, and all your utilities on a minimum wage pay?
I mean, is this
That,
rhetorical or is it a real question? There's no way. That's why there's government assistance and aid for people under a certain threshold. Um, at the same token, a lot of people that are considered middle class are suffering because I guess they're considered to make too much to get assistance and stuff, and yet not enough to really reap the benefits of the American dream, right?
right.
Now, it's very sad, and I'm glad you did your research on that because you know, in Georgia, I did not know the minimum wage was that low. I thought it was at least $10 or something out here. I see like signs at McDonald's out here that say we start off at $15 an hour. So maybe in Atlanta, even with metropolis cities like Atlanta, surrounding areas, it may be a little higher than maybe rural Georgia. But you're saying in my demographic, it's 725. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And we have one of the highest housing markets. It's really pricey and expensive when it comes to the cost of living. It goes up every year. Everything goes up. So that's really a tragedy. Um,
It is.
I just knew myself that I just could not exist in the regular society of, clocking in, clocking out, going to work. So I'm so far removed from that at this point in my life. Praise God. I will never be a slave to the system. Ever. But
America is not for you.
right. Like,
It's
I
not.
just think that's crazy that the minimum wage is so low out here in Georgia. It's sinful because, like I said, the housing market is ridiculous right now. Not just for people that are homeowners, but also for renters as well. It's crazy. Um, man, and like I said, it feels like the middle class, a lot of, middle class people are becoming more lower middle class to
Mhm.
downright poor, and it's because they're not able to get that assistance and stuff that they need. Man,
Exactly.
it's crazy. So I can only imagine. So think about that. We have men out here in the state that I live in that are making a certain amount. So the women are probably making even less than that. Like
Mm.
725 is for the women. The guys probably making 8. It's just crazy.
Maybe that number might be a little bit higher. Like you were saying, you saw like signs, and it's almost, you got to think about when you see a higher number for a pay, they don't tell you like the fine line. There's no like read a unit, get your magnifying glass and look, because you got to have the experience, you got to have the references, you got to have all this to get even qualified for that higher pay. You know what I mean? So they sucker you into applying for these jobs, and you get these jobs, and it's not what was stated because they're not giving you the full entire you know description of what it is to get to that pay,
Right,
which
exactly. There's like so many hurdles along the way before you even get to that. Um, we could talk about like there's so many different components of this or aspects of this because like I said, the experience of black women in this country has been a different experience than white women in this country, which has been a different experience from immigrants in this country. And a lot of, like we were saying, a lot of immigrant females or women are under the ideology that okay, the man is supposed to run the household. Like I don't mind staying home or doing whatever while he's doing his thing. If a man is willing to provide for his family and the woman wants to take care of home, that's perfectly fine. I don't have any problem with that. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, that's old school," whatever. If that's what the agreement they have going on, and the woman is treated perfectly and kindly and loved and just adored and has everything she needs at her fingertips, then that's great, right? That's amazing. But in this country, that's really not a reality. There are not too many women sitting at home because unfortunately, there's a lot of broken households, whether it be through divorce, people that were never married who didn't work out, baby mama, baby daddy, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of broken homes. That's the first thing. So women were kind of forced to go out there and start working.
Exactly.
You know, can you imagine, like, during after Vietnam and stuff like that, all of the women who became widowed within those years and stuff like that? And I feel with those, I think this is my opinion. I think women were
Yeah.
kind of pushed to go to work after some of those major wars were happening. They didn't have a choice
Oh,
because the husband is dead. He passed away in war, or he's gone at war, and I have to take care of the kids. So I think that's when we start seeing women actually join the workforce, like the woman who's in
mhm.
the picture, the strong arm lady, you know,
Yes,
the
we can do.
yeah, the famous steel worker woman. I forgot her name. But yeah, that's a prime example of I feel when women were really starting to get out there and make a living for themselves. And perhaps men were intimidated. I don't know.
Oh, there was no perhaps that. That was, the ego came into play. And it's like, oh, no, 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 no. What do you think y'all are doing? That's where that came from. And, feminist groups came about and, paved the way for us today. Thank God.
We can talk
But
about
I do.
that though. We can touch on that, like the women's suffrage movement and women's voting right act and everything. But guess what? When white women were given the opportunity to vote back in whatever 1929 or however long ago it was, guess what? People of color could not vote until 1965. So that's another thing. You have to look at the disparities based on race, privilege, class. All of that stuff does really play a factor to this day when it comes to who's getting paid what, when, why, how.
Yeah. And what's crazy though, we are United States, but there's still so much segregation, especially what we're talking about now with pay and gender roles and what's expected. People go to college, to go 4-year college, they go and get their master's, they get their doctorate. I know people today, girl, that are still working hourly jobs that have their master's degree that can't get a job in the corporate world making the money that they should be making, paying off those student loans. So it's just like we were raised to think like, oh, the American dream, go to college, get your master's, get your dream job, make all this money. And inflation is a real thing. Like, people aren't making what they were expecting.
Exactly.
That's male, but especially females are not making half the amount. Like we talked about the previous podcast before with the WNBA, how little they make versus these NBA players signing multi-million-dollar contracts, and they're playing the same sport. It's not fair.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. Um, I think it's really sad. And I feel that the men that are in power in this world, because once again, men are running the world, um, it's a thing where they don't want to lose control. Like they can never, I hate to say it, I hope one day we can see an actual female president. Perhaps Kamala Rice is the closest thing we'll ever see to it. It's like, okay, we'll give you so much, but then, at the same time, they 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 still want to keep that little like margin, like, no, we're still men, okay? And you're still a woman, so know your place. And going back to what you're saying about college and stuff like that, it's sad to say there are a few jobs out there, a few career fields where, okay, you can really make the bang for your buck. A couple fields like you want to be a surgeon or have a general practice as a doctor, or maybe perhaps a
Right.
lawyer, some engineers, stuff like that. But for the most part, going to school, I'm not going to say it's a waste of time because education is great. It's great to have. But when it comes to being able to manage money and make wealth, create wealth, what they teach in curriculum is not beneficial whatsoever. Trust me, as someone who is living as an entrepreneur now, full fledged for 4 years now. Wow, 4 years this month. For 4 years now, I'm gonna give myself a little pat on the back because after going through what I, experienced working for somebody else who wanted me to live out their dream,
Mhm.
I just really had to convince myself, no, I can't do it. So I really feel for women or people in general who have to go through that for 30 plus years. And then when they retire, they really have nothing to show for it because, like you said, inflation is very real. So we're
Yes.
sold a dream from kindergarten to 12th grade. Like, oh, you go to school, don't miss any school, get your education, all this stuff. You learn language arts and history, and none of that stuff teaches you about credit, or it doesn't teach you about how to, flip your money or create wealth or manage your funds or how to, work the system of credit. It doesn't teach you any of that. So I just find it really interesting. It's great to be knowledgeable, but like you said, there's people with master's degrees and PhDs who are clocking in and out at a job that they absolutely hate, making 40 grand a year. Quite simply, I think the
Yeah.
system of college is designed to keep the classes separate.
I never even thought about it like that.
Absolutely.
I never
Go to
thought
school.
that.
We're teaching you how to work for somebody. Go to school, get your degree. Nothing's wrong with education. But think about it this way,
Mhm.
unless you're going to become an entrepreneur, now somebody has to be the worker. Everybody can't be the boss.
Facts.
Therefore, you have your farmer ants, and it creates a whole ecosystem of capitalism. It's a real thing.
Mm.
That is why we press for people to go to school, go to college, all this stuff, so we can create these worker ants to fuel industry, to fuel Fortune 500, to fuel companies. Yeah, I'm gonna sit
Mhm.
here for 30 years. You see my fancy degrees on the wall? Oh yeah, I make like 70,000 a year. Do I see the big dream house and the picket fence that I always wanted? No. Or
No.
possibly, but we're struggling. We're penny
Right.
pinching.
Or it'll take you a little longer to get there. Like if you had like a 15-year plan, that might be drawn out 25, 30 years, you know?
Exactly. And it's just
And
really
by that time,
unfortunate.
you need to be retired, you know? If you're working a job that long and you finally get to that, you should be retired.
Exactly.
That's how I,
And there's so many people that are reaching whatever the senior age is now, and it keeps going up, right? We want you to stay working until you're about to hit your grave, okay? Until you lay down flat in your coffin, you're going to be working. You're going to have to do something to take care of yourself. Not everybody falls into this spectrum, but the majority of people in the United States of America fit into exactly what the hell I'm talking about.
Mhm.
They
I
absolutely
agree.
do. They absolutely are working their entire lives and they go on vacation 3 times a year. And they're just so like, oh my God, how is that an American dream? You're a slave to a
It's not
company for all this time.
that. And that right there that you're talking about is that work life balance that is imbalance. You have people out here working their asses off and getting sick, catching stuff. You know what I'm saying? They don't have time to recover because they're expected to be at work and they get sicker and weaker. And, there's no fallback for these people. These are like elderly people, you know what I mean? And I've met a woman before, poor thing has COPD, but she has to work because she has nothing saved. She has nothing planned for the rest of her days. You know what I mean? And she's worked, 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 and she can't afford. This is for the sad thing. She worked so much she cannot afford to enjoy her vacation time because she has to work. You know, and a lot of these companies, I know some companies they'll let you cash out on your vacation days, you get your paid time off. There's others it doesn't roll over. You use it or lose it. And say for this lady, she has to work. She's going to lose all her vacation days. She can't even enjoy anything because she has to make a living. She has to pay her bills. Her medical bills are piling up because she's working so much. She's sick all the time. Where does it end?
Right. That has to be so stressful. And my prayers to that woman, like, that is crazy. And
Mhm.
she, guys, she is one of so many countless stories and so many faceless people that we do not know that make up the demographic of this country, of the United States of America. You know, I love this country. I believe in everything that you're able to do here because, yes, being an entrepreneur or, yes, having a high paid job, all that stuff is very possible. You can enjoy the fruits of your labor. But see, to me, there's a difference between working hard and you actually, over time, you see progression like, okay, I'm at a different place and step than I was 2 years before. I'm at a different
Mhm.
place than I was a year before. Like I can say for myself, since moving to Atlanta and being on my journey for 4 years out here, I have seen progression every single year. It takes focus, it takes concentration, it takes sweat equity. And a lot of people, unfortunately, here's I'm gonna play devil's advocate with this one. A lot of people do not have the self discipline to say, "Oh, let me quit my goddamn job. Let me go ahead and chase
Mhm.
that dream. I always wanted to own a whole chain of ice cream trucks. Let me go ahead and chase that dream. Oh, I always wanted to, whatever." I'm
Mhm.
gonna tell you, most people are not about to make that jump, especially after a certain age. And if you already have kids and a
Mhm.
life partner into the mix, it makes things a lot more difficult to say, okay, let me change my complete situation. Let me just uproot and move somewhere else. People are accustomed to what's common, what's familiar.
Yep.
Even
Comfortability.
comfortability, even if the familiarity is hurting them inside,
Mhm.
detrimental to their well-being, it's detrimental to their health. There's people still working in factories that have asbestos and all kind of stuff, and I really was watching something about how Amazon treats their employees and how they have pickers, and that's the same word they use for slaves. Pickers. You have to pick so many items a day, or you get suspended, you get fired. I heard Amazon is no joke when it comes to people that work in that warehouse part. So
Mhm.
I just have to really scratch my head and wonder, like, yes, there is modern day slavery in a lot of these huge corporations and companies, but with the current like education system and how people are designed to go through the system of the funnel of K through 12 and college, and you know you go for this great job opportunity, but then a lot of people are stuck having debt once they graduate and stuff like this. It's just like, I don't know, it's a really huge problem. What's up, you guys? Your girl Nia J with Dynasty Queens, and we're back again. Are y'all really ready to elevate your handbag game? Well, guess what? We got some super dope Louis Vuitton handbags on sale. All you have to do is click on the handbag you like in the description below and proceed with that beautiful bag straight to checkout. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to tell them Nia J sent you. Dynasty Queen's going to have you looking right this summer. That's right. And
And you mentioned, this country, and like I do want to touch on how we can like, mirror other countries, like Sweden, for example. Their maternity and paternity leave laws are insane. Let me tell you about them. So, mom and dad both get paid maternity and paternity leave, 480 days, Nia, of paid maternity and paternity time combined. Not to mention, if you have multiples, you get an additional 180 days paid. So you have triplets, you get that 480, you get 180 times two on top of that for both parents, and you split those days. Paid. You're at home, you're able to raise your baby. You don't have to do the 6 weeks and you're expected to be back at work and having to pay for daycare and having all these other expenses that we have here in America where people can't even catch a break even after they have their little bundle of love. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Just that alone, it's like, what are we doing wrong here? And how do we get to that level of where we're able to take care of the country and our people?
I'm just doing the math in my head. How many days did you say? That's well over a year,
Mm-hmm.
right?
480 days if you have one baby, but that's combined maternity and paternity.
So they're
So
together.
you would just split that,
Split that.
and then an additional 180 days.
I mean, even if you split that, that's still about the duration of a pregnancy. That's like an additional 9 months off per parent.
Yeah, paid.
Paid. Sweden. Sweden,
Hello,
you know.
sounded really nice.
And it's also so baffling that we're the only country that where people have to pay for healthcare. Like we're the only country. No other country
Yeah,
has that.
Mm-mm.
Everything, free healthcare. A lot of countries have free education, like Canada. The first 2 years are free. It's just a lot. It's a lot of things that I feel people empowered don't really focus on when anyone's in a position of power, because that's not the agenda. This country, you have to push the capitalism, which does, I mean, there's such a positive side of that, because yes, once again, somebody got to be the worker. Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. However, if you're one of the type of people who has a distinctive dream and you're sitting on it, you need to get your ass up. And I'm not saying to quit your job cold turkey. Not at all. I'm not even saying to quit it at all. But
Mm.
please try to explore the things that you're actually passionate about, so your life can really be fulfilling and really, you can feel like a more complete human being and individual, opposed to being a slave of the system your whole life. And I know I'm talking to somebody right now, because I told this
You
to
are.
myself 6 years ago while I was wasting away at an office desk. And I said, nah, fuck this. I'm about to go live my dreams, because I knew everything I was capable of. I knew I was talented and competent and finally level headed and mature enough to do it. And I believed in myself. And I know I'm talking to somebody right now. You can do it too.
You are.
If you're miserable and you feel that you're really feeling that pay gap energy, you got to get up and do something else.
Yeah, you gotta do something about it. And also, when I was growing up, it was all about education, like continued education. And, as you get older, you'll learn that it's not about what you know, it's about who you know too. That is so important. Networking has changed the game. You know what I'm saying? You have got to put yourself out there. Because you don't know who would be willing to sponsor you. You don't know who is willing to just give you a chance on an idea that you have. You know what I mean?
It's really funny you say that. I was talking to my father, and he actually gets it. My father is 65 years old, and he worked for the postal system for 35 years. However, he was always an entrepreneur. At one time, he had his own restaurant. Then he got into like real estate, flipping homes, but he never quit. He never took that full plunge to being a full time entrepreneur. But he always was an entrepreneur and kept his 9 to 5 uh, as a mailman. But
Yeah.
with that being said, he was able to provide even when my parents separated. But he told me, he was like, he was telling my younger brother, who he's much younger than me, who is looking at
Mm.
colleges right now, right? Potential to choose a career path, what he wants to do. He was telling my brother, look at being some type of influencer, because this new day and age of social media is where it's at. And my dad is so correct. He's like, this new generation, y'all really know some different type of ways. And he's linking all of us. He's linking millennials and Gen Y all together. He's like, y'all really have some creative ways of making money, And he's like, back in our day, my dad always told me since I was little, he said, you know what? I want you to grow up and work for yourself. I don't want you to work for anybody. So I heard that since I was 7 years old. And my mom's side, I love them to death, but that's a family of educators, teachers. And my
Mhm.
dad's mom was too. So on both sides, it's educators. So education was really important. And I think it still is. I'm not saying you need to be out here illiterate and not knowing what the hell is going on. You have to definitely know how to, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to know how to read contracts and, have conversation with people and have a brain. So education is so important. But don't let college be the end all. Like, you have to have
Mhm.
something else going,
The only.
because just going to school and getting a job, you are going to, and not everybody, but if you have that entrepreneur inside of you or that drive to do more, you are going to be dying inside until you jump on that dream. Absolutely. And I'm talking to all the women out there and men that watch this show. Yes, there's definitely a pay gap, but everybody, I feel, should be happy. And I'm not saying not to work less. Put in the work, but make it work for you.
Agreed. Agreed.
Make it work.
I do. I do want to touch on something. We were talking about, maternity, paternity in Sweden. So let me ask you a little challenging question. So let me give you a scenario. Mom has a baby, 6 weeks pass, and she's got to get back to it. Single mom. Daycare, when my kids were little, shit, I would say a month. Daycare was at least 1,200. That's how much people pay in rent. And then you, let alone, you're working basically for someone else to care for your baby. So, what would you say to that single mom in that predicament? What would be some solutions that she could do to either save money or basically just to save money and get ahead? What would you suggest?
Man, there's once again, there's so many situations and so many different factors that can be thrown into the pool of things and what we're talking about specifically. But okay, so this person, hypothetically, how many kids do they have?
Let's say one.
They have one.
So, your mom.
And this is an infant child at this point.
So, like 7 week old child.
I mean, I don't have an answer because if you're caught into the system of going to work every day and you only make a set amount of money and you're not doing anything else outside of that to monetize or make additional income, then I don't see how that person can get out of her situation unless she says, you know what, let me reassess what I got going on. So this person is the dad involved in this hypothetical person? Is there a father?
Let's go ahead and say the dad is involved. Yeah.
Okay, so the dad's involved. So it's a two-parent household and an infant child. Dad is working, or is he on the couch?
Dad is working. Both parents are working.
And then what's their household income annually?
Let's see. Let's say, just for example, daycare is 1,200 a month. Both parents are making minimum wage. So let's say they're in Atlanta and they're making the 725 minimum wage.
I would
Plus,
advise I would advise because WIC is a real thing. It's a real program, and they have other programs that young mothers can get involved in, at least for the first 12 to 18 months, where you're getting like milk and the food and possibly some type of food stamp situation for the kids. Until you're able to change the situation, you're going to have to take part in the system. If they're both making minimum wage, then the mom should qualify for WIC and other Medicaid and other services that are available. You have to utilize your resources until you can do better for yourself. That's all I can tell her because I have nothing else to tell her. Is she talented? Is she pursuing anything else outside of what she's doing now, or is she just complacent with working and then trying to find means for her child? Because there's so many scenarios, like so many daggers I could throw into it. But this is a hypothetical person. So what does she do for a living?
so let's say she is a store clerk. So she works at a grocery store. And then dad works at Apple. Let's just say that.
Okay. Well, I mean, if that's the case, she's going to have to look into some programs that hopefully she can qualify. Um, Hopefully she has a support system of women around her, maybe a mom or aunt, sisters that can be there as a helping hand, or some friends or cousins or somebody in the mix that can help alleviate some time. I know a lot of time it is hard for women to find people to babysit their children. And out here in Atlanta as a casting agent, a lot of the time girls miss out on a lot of opportunities because they couldn't find a babysitter for their kid. You're supposed to be on set at 9 a.m., but oh, the babysitter canceled. So that is a whole other thing. Even when you're trying to pursue your dreams, you got to have that childcare stuff on lock. Or if you don't have the whole situation set up, you have to evaluate everything. It has to be baby steps. So if she's just perfectly fine with being a store clerk, then she may need to get a second job. Perhaps he needs to get a second job until they're able to get on their feet, start saving that money, and find some ways to flip that money. Maybe they want to look at investing. Maybe they want to look at Bitcoin. Maybe they want to look at, rolling it into some type of, financial system that can grow. It's a lot of ways. I hope they don't try to just gamble it away. There's so many other ways that you can kind of flip your money outside of that. Maybe they can look at, getting into Airbnb. There's so many ways you can make money these days. Turo, Uber Eats. Maybe dad can go do Uber Eats on the side while mom's, like,
Right. And speaking of Uber, you have a great program. Like if you don't have a car, they will take a percentage of your pay to rent out the car to you so that you're able to work. So I love how some of these companies is like no excuses. Like if you need a job, we got you. Just provide A, B, C, X, Y, Z.
Right.
and take care of. And what you said, I definitely feel like you've helped some of our viewers as far as, what to do in predicaments, because I know a lot of women out here, it's like, well, I got kids, like, I can't do like what I want to do, like you were saying. And that's absolutely not true. You can monetize from home. You're the one that taught me, like, shoot, there's money out here. Everybody can eat,
Right.
And especially in this digital age that we live in, like, you can literally do anything. Just a swipe of your phone, download an app, and you're set. You can start doing what you want to do,
There's
you
so
know?
many couples with little infants on Instagram and TikTok, and they are making major money from these brands that are paying them, to be influencers. Like all of that is possible. But some people still have the mentality of, oh, I can't do that. Not me. If you have that ideology, I cannot help you. The reason we're having this conversation about pay gap is not to bitch, cry, and moan as women. We're sitting here trying to find resolution and solution in a world that's not going to change. So in a world that we know it's not going to change, men still run this place. We have to figure out ways to make it. You got to make it to overcompensate for the lack of. If I can do it and you can do it, because you have two girls, right? And you
Yeah,
have multiple streams of income at this point in your life. If you can do it, if I can do it, if other women can do it, then anybody can do it. I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for people that actually have options. If you really don't have any options, maybe you're disabled and stuff like that, then I will empathize with you. But as long as you are fully mobile, coherent, okay, and you're not lazy and can, there's no excuse. It really isn't. We have to learn how to overcompensate. They're not going to pay us more. They're not going to look at us as equals, better than. They look at us as less than, as women of color. Okay, those are strikes against us automatically. Guess what?
yeah,
I'm going to make my own way.
yeah.
I don't care.
Do you want to also add in with women with disabilities, since we're talking about the topic of women, there's so many programs for disabled people, like nonprofits and all kinds of things that can get you into the door to a good job. Doesn't matter what's like wrong with you or whatever, like you can still make a living and still work and do things. There's so many programs out here to help and assist with disabled people.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
so yes, girl.
Yeah. And I don't have any problem, like, how with the different political parties, Democrat, Republican, I can agree with both because, like I just said, I'm not going to feel sorry for someone. They say that's that old term, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. There's some truth to that. You definitely can. At the same time, I don't have any problem with government assistance programs for people that are underprivileged. Some kids are born into households with mothers who are on drugs. They're in the foster care system their lives. Kids are out here getting molested, thrown into sex trafficking, no education. It's a lot of factors that can contribute to the way that a person grows up, becomes adolescent, becomes an adult, right?
Right.
So I have mercy for those people. I absolutely do. I absolutely have mercy for someone who was born into that situation. But there are still so many people that have overcome complete devastation, growing up in complete utter poverty and becoming something. It really all is inside. Like there's really nothing that we cannot accomplish in this lifetime as human beings, whether it be female, male. We have the ability to do whatever we want to do. As long as, like I said, we're coherent, we're not immobile,
Yes.
we can do whatever we want to do. We have to put our mind to it. We can't let the system or the pay grade or anything deter us from our dreams or tell us what we can or cannot do. We have to really, be mentally strong. And we've touched on mental health and stuff before, so I'm not going to dabble too much into that, but that plays a part too. So it's so many factors that can really play into, how we move about life.
And you know what? I do want to bring up a good point too. I feel like COVID was that big reset button for everybody, like male and female, because a lot of people they depended on unemployment checks for what, a year, 2 years, and that was when the awakening of the digital era came about, and everyone's like, "I gotta make money. Like we gotta pay these bills." The bills didn't stop.
I feel that our generation experienced COVID, and so many of us were like, oh, fuck it. Like, let me go and just try to pursue my dream. Let me try to do something because nothing else is happening right now. Like, let's do this.
You had nothing to lose at that point.
I think it threw people into entrepreneurship. And that to me, whether or not COVID was a whatever or whatever, that was a good part of it because it really made a lot of people say, hey, it's fight or flight. Like, I have to do something more. It really pushed a lot of people into becoming influencers, content creators. I'm not just talking about OnlyFans. I'm talking about people who are actually out there really doing things, pursuing their dreams and stuff. And I think
Yeah.
that COVID pushed people into that direction. It really did, or at least opened our eyes to the system. Like, wait a minute, wait a minute, you know? And I just think it's a spark that kind of ignited in us that was not in the past generations, unless you were already born into wealth or became an entertainer. Because nowadays,
Mm.
anybody can, you can make money online, doing stuff as an influencer or whatever. I think everybody has a hidden talent. People just haven't tapped into it.
Right. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it was a tragic time, but it was like a necessary time, for everybody to shoot. That's when we started, girl. Let's talk about it.
Yes. You guys, we had Let's Talk About It, which was, our IG live show that we had about 4 years ago. Oh my God. Where does time go?
No, that was COVID time when we had all the time in the world, girl.
We had all the time in the world. And how often did we film? We did it like, was it bi-weekly? And then we started doing a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it was like started bi-weekly and then we were doing it week.
Yeah, every week. And you guys, that was the infancy to what we're doing now, linking up with our production and, really manifesting and perpetuating Dynasty Queens to what it is, with, of course, the help of, King Rush Productions, of course, Dynasty modeling, everything, it became a full circle. It became a marriage of, vision. So really grateful for that. But yeah, we got our grassroots during COVID, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
We are the child of what we're talking about, actually. Like some pay
Yes.
gap my ass. Pay gap my ass. What? Oh, we gonna make some things shake. It's okay. Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you foresee for like the next 5 years or so about the pay gap? Do you feel like it'll get better over time, or do you feel like it's gonna just be the same shenanigans we're dealing with now?
I think it would take a lot of different women to advocate, or to on the local level, because I think a lot of stuff happens city to city, state representative, like state by state. There would have to be some laws passed where the president would have to look at everything and be like, okay, let's make this more fair. Or if it's corporation based, like the corporation CEO needs to look at, okay, this is a disparity. Like, we can actually clearly see through the data that, women are getting paid X amount versus the guys, this and that. It would take all of the CEOs of all these major companies to really give a damn, right? That's what it would take.
Gotcha.
So unfortunately, if that's not going to happen, then we definitely need to find different means and ways, like some of the ways we've been talking about now, to kind of overcompensate for that lack of income. There's always a way. Until you're able to pursue your dreams, you may have to get a second job, like I said, look at some government assistance programs and stuff like that until you're able to get on your feet. And it's baby steps. Once you get to this point, okay, so I did that. What do I need to do, or what do I need to learn or become, savvy at to be able to make more income doing XYZ? You know,
Period.
some people are sitting at home trading all day on their phones. Some people are Bitcoining it out. Some people, it's just a lot of different ways that you can make money outside of working a 9 to 5. So you just have to really find your niche and what works for you. Some people turn to OnlyFans. I don't look, it is what it is. So there's all these different ways that you can be making money. Look, you know what I'm saying? There's something wrong with that at all, baby. Make your coin. So we're talking about women with pay gap, honey. The OnlyFans will take care of that pay gap. You know what I mean? So
Tap tap into what you're good at, you know?
okay, tap it literally when it comes to that, tap into what you're good at. So I feel whatever your gift is, whatever you're capable of doing in this day and age, you gotta have more than one gig going in order to have a comfortable lifestyle, to have a quality of life is what,
Yes,
I think that's the modern day term for the American dream. A quality of life. American dream is an old term.
it is. Very, very boomer.
It's very boomer and it's very fantasy and it's very Barbie Kenish. Like it's dream. I like to live in reality. I don't like to live in fantasy world. I want my real life to be the fantasy.
Got you. And it's funny that you mention that too, because you think about, you got to think about how much the cost of living was back in like our grandparents' day, our parents' day.
Right.
And the American dream, when you were making $1.25 an hour, on the higher end of things, to like what things equate to now. Could you imagine if inflation today was how it was back in the 50s?
Girl, I would be a billionaire probably
You know,
at this point, close to. You know what's funny though is like JP Morgan and the Rockefellers, they were big balling back then, honey. Like I'm talking multi hundreds of millions back in these days. Can you imagine their wealth in a time where we probably hadn't even seen the government probably hadn't even seen $1 trillion. Like these people were wealthy back then. Can you imagine? That's what I'm saying. It's a system.
they would probably take the United States, be like, here, take this, you're out of debt, start clean, let's fix this. Like, I really do believe that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. That's how, there are, and that's with any country, there are going to have to be people that, run the show, that call the shots. That's how it is. If you want to get bailed out for certain stuff, hey, okay, I'm bailing you out. Well, here's what it is. So that's part of the game that we live in, monopoly, capitalism, all that good stuff. It's part of the game. But like I said, for all my ladies out there who are watching and you're sitting at home complaining about not making as much as your male counterpart, guess what? You have to start thinking about your options, what you're good at. If in the meantime you need more money, you may have to get a secondary job that can pay for whatever it is you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of actually really cool industries that people dream about doing, like becoming a culinary chef, you know,
Mhm.
going to Cordon Bleu and all this stuff. Like if your dream is going to culinary school and becoming a top chef, and being on TV and winning $1 million by beating, you know, your favorite cook, Emerald Lagasse or somebody, like go for it. I'm all for it. If you wanted to be an airline pilot but never had the means to do so, then you have to hustle and have some remedial jobs until you're able to pay for flight school. Those are jobs that fulfill people's dreams. There are certain career paths that absolutely make people feel complete. And stuff like that, true profession that takes craft and something that you can be prideful about. Like, hey, I am responsible for all these people in this aircraft. I'm responsible for their
Right.
lives. Like, I'm really good at what I do. There's some really cool jobs out there, and people are getting paid very well. But guess what? All of those really good flight attendants and airline pilots and stuff, especially the pilots, please believe me, they are investing their money, baby, and flipping it. They're not just relying on their paycheck. So once you learn how to play the game, are doing different things and making different streams of income, you'll be set, regardless of what your job is or your gender.
I'll say this. Nia has told me this. This is a Nia quote. Everybody can eat. There's so much money out here. You just got to tap into it.
Literally, I can just tell you, like, I have really learned what I do is I watch people who are successful around me and I keep myself around them and I watch how they can make money come out of thin air. And I've learned how to do it myself. And it is a skill that you have to learn in order to survive in this day and age. You have to really learn how to have different streams of income going at one time in order to live
And who you
the
surround
quality of life
yourself
you
with
want.
is too. Like you said, who you surround yourself with. If you got people that are just successful and doing it, you can learn so much from those people. We continue to just be around negativity, be around just complacentness, you're gonna
Absolutely.
stay.
Absolutely. I'm going to close this out. And I want to close this out with a quote that I heard. The great Trina, the rapper Trina. I saw this online a couple days ago. Just came up on my Explore page. Trina said, if you are the most successful person in the room, you need to leave that room. If you
Ooh,
are the most accomplished person in your circle, you don't have to like completely like throw your friends by the side. You have to explore other circles. I want to be the student in the room. At every level, if you are the student, then you are continuing to grow. And I'm hoping that means your pockets and your intellect and the way you put it all together. If you're, like I said, if you want to be the big shot in the room, okay, cool. That means you feel like you've reached your mark and you can't go any higher. Me, baby, I want to soar. I still have dreams and goals of having absolute conversations with your Oprahs of the world and people like that. Michelle Obama's. I want to have a conversation with Beyonce just about business, really. Of course, music, but just like the business model of, I, I'm not on no. I want to get into the brains of people that are successful and figure out what the hell they're doing,
yeah.
so that I can repeat it and do a version of it of my own, my way.
Hell yeah, girl.
Right?
Woo.
Great stuff. And I love how we're able to turn a topic that is really a despairing and very it can be a very sad topic that we're talking about, like, hey, we are not getting paid the same as men, and how we're able to make it something so positive, like, girl, you got this. You
Absolutely.
got this. You know?
Period.
I want to hear what all y'all have to say. Please leave a comment for us. Let us know how you feel about this topic. What are some of your experiences with experiencing, the pay gap in your line of work? Have you done anything to change that? Are you sitting on your butt? Tell us what your plan is. We want to hear it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Man, good stuff. I just feel so like we're doing a service to the community with this one. But in closing, this is your girl Nia J, and I have my beautiful best friend.
Pamela Nicole.
And this has been another episode of Dynasty.